While watching a movie, we usually assume that the hero is going to make it out alive. Whether our protagonist is facing a daunting foe, a vast army, or an entire empire, we have no doubts who is going to come out on top. But sometimes you do feel like the film would have worked better if it concluded with our hero actually taking the big sleep. With that in mind, then I'm Josh from Whatculture.com, and these are 10 movies where the hero should have died. Number 10, Chev Chelios, Crank. Sometimes it makes sense for the hero to die in a movie purely because it benefits the narrative. But the hero of Crank needed to die for one simple reason, and that's because it's pretty literally impossible to survive his fate. Now, in the closing moments of the original Crank, ex-hitman Chev Chelios, best name ever by the way, faces his arch-nemesis while on a helicopter. In the struggle, the two men are hurled out of the vehicle, seemingly giving Jason Statham's character a zero chance of survival. And after falling about a mile or two, Chelios slams full force onto the roof of a car, causing him to bounce another 50 feet into the air before then slamming onto the concrete below. Despite the fact that this guy should now be reduced to a liquefied paste though, he then blinks, proving that he has yet to shuffle off this mortal coil. Now, analyzing the logic in a Crank movie is a total fool's game, but still, if the filmmakers intended the character to return in the sequel, why didn't they make him land on something just a smidge more survivable than a metallic roof? Like, literally just a smidge as well, because without exaggeration, it would have been less far-fetched for him to survive landing on almost literally anything else. Number 9, Dewey, Scream 2. When we saw Dewey survive his encounter with Ghostface at the end of Scream, most viewers couldn't believe it. Considering that he got stabbed in the back, it looked like the town of Woodsboro had just lost their deputy. Interestingly, Dewey was actually supposed to die in the original cut, but after director Wes Craven saw how popular David Arquette's character was with test audiences, he decided to keep Dewey around. Though it didn't seem like for long, as halfway through Scream 2, the new Ghostface sneaks up on Dewey again and rams a knife through his vertebrae. And just to make sure the viewers believe Dewey was a goner this time around, we see the killer hack at his spine repeatedly until blood gushes from his mouth. Even though we were fooled by Dewey's fate the first time around, we were certain he was dead this time. But again, in the final scene, we see the young officer has somehow survived having his spinal cord reduced to mulch and is once again being wheeled away in an ambulance. Although, in the moment, we were relieved that Dewey survived in the first Scream, his survival here just seemed kinda nuts, given how many times the dude was stabbed and how long he was left bleeding out on the floor for. Number 8, Julie, I Know What You Did Last Summer. In I Know What You Did Last Summer, Julie and her friends are driving along a byway when they collide into a pedestrian. Terrified they'll go to prison, they dump the body and swear to never mention the event again. 1 year later though, Julie and her friends learn that they're being hunted by a hook-wielding killer, who taunts them with notes that read, I know what you did last summer. After Julie seemingly kills her pursuer in the climactic battle though, it looks like the story is about to wrap up. We then cut to several months later and see Julie in college readying to have a shower. But as she turns around, she notices the words I still know written on the steamy glass, and with no warning, a shadowy figure leaps towards Julie before the screen cuts to black. Now, because I Know What You Did Last Summer was a huge hit, it was no surprise when it spawned a sequel the following year. In I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Julie is now at a holiday resort when she discovers the killer is still hunting her. But wait a minute, what happened with the first movie's final scene? How did she survive that attack? Well, the sequel explains this away in the laziest way possible. See, the ending of the first film was just a dream. That's right, that's the best the movie could come up with. Considering I Still Know What You Did Last Summer was terrible and made little money, it would have been better if Julie just died in the first film's closing moments and not bothered with the sequel at all. Number 7, Porter, Payback. Payback is such a cynical thriller that you don't expect the protagonist, Porter, to make it out alive. Hell, we see his toes being crushed by a sledgehammer and we watch a bullet being dug out of his spine, and that's just the opening scene. Because of his criminal lifestyle and the company he keeps, you can't really picture Porter riding off into the sunset. But sure enough, Payback concludes with Porter killing the bad guy, rescuing his partner, and starting a new life in Canada. If you thought this climax didn't suit the narrative though, then you're not the only one. See, originally, the film was to conclude with Porter being left mortally wounded after being shot by an assassin. Unfortunately, the studio thought the initial cut of Payback was too dark for a mainstream audience, and over the next year, the director was replaced, 30% of the scenes were reshot, and the film was given a brand new ending. Even though you can understand why the execs might have wanted Payback to avoid a downbeat climax, watching Porter biting the dust in the end would have definitely fit the film's darker tone a lot better. Number 6, Martin Riggs, Lethal Weapon 2. That's right, we got another entry with Mel Gibson. In Lethal Weapon 2's final showdown, Riggs and Murtaugh track down a corrupt consul called Rudd. After Riggs takes out Rudd's lead henchman, the ruthless consul shoots him. Now, it's not certain how many bullets Riggs is plugged with, but since Rudd emptied his entire clip on him, it is safe to say that it's probably a lot. After Murtaugh shoots Rudd dead though, he rushes to his partner, telling him that he's going to pull through. Due to the somber tone and the way Riggs is gasping for air, it genuinely looks like Mel Gibson's character here is about to pop his clogs. But within less than a minute, Riggs starts cracking jokes, reassuring his partner that he's totally fine. However, Riggs' recovery seems jarring because, well, Shane Black genuinely toyed with the idea of killing him off, but had a change of heart at the last minute. Even though Lethal Weapon 3 and 4 do have their moments, these installments feel like more of the same as a whole. In hindsight, it would have probably been better and more impactful if the series concluded with Lethal Weapon 2, with Riggs checking out at the end. Number 5, Matt Hooper, Jaws. In the thrilling third act of Jaws, Brody, Hooper, and Quint finally find the great white that has been terrorizing Amity Island for weeks. As the shark attacks the group's boat, Hooper enters a shark-proof cage, hoping to inject the creature with a poison spear. After the shark dismantles Hooper's cage, though, the nasty little fishy hurries back to the boat, where it devours Quint. Just as the vessel is about to sink into the sea, Brody shoots the pressure tank while it's inside the shark's mouth, blowing the beast to smithereens. With the threat finally defeated, it looks like the credits are about to roll. But with less than a minute left, Hooper suddenly springs from the water, revealing that he's safe and sound. Even though it was nice to see that Hooper made it, his return does seem a little bit random. After the shark demolished Hooper's cage, you naturally assume that he was fish food. I mean, he wasn't around when the shark destroyed the boat or when it ate Quint, so to reveal that Hooper survived, despite the fact that he played no part whatsoever in killing the shark, did seem a little bit pointless. Number 4, Batman: The Dark Knight Rises. In the closing moments of The Dark Knight Rises, Batman realizes that an atomic bomb in Gotham is minutes away from turning the city into a crater. After he attaches the explosive to his aerial craft, Batman flies it out to sea just before it explodes. And although he saved the city, the Caped Crusader is killed in the blast. Or so it seemed, as just before the film concluded, we learned that Batman's craft was on autopilot, implying that our hero wasn't actually in the ship when it blew up. We then cut to a shot of Alfred bumping into Bruce Wayne, who is living abroad in peace. Now, even though Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy was masterfully crafted, there are a couple of issues with this ending. From the perspective of his character arc, it does make sense that Bruce finally realized that he didn't have to give everything to the city and had earned himself some peace. Thematically, it's sound, but in the context of the film, the execution does feel weird. For one, why is he walking around in public after faking his death? Shouldn't he be recognized in like 5 minutes no matter where he is in the world? And furthermore, the way that he survived the atomic blast just doesn't add up. We see Batman is still in his craft seconds before it went kaboom, and it doesn't matter how deep he was in the water, you can't swim away from a nuclear blast. If the fire didn't incinerate him, then he would have been killed by the shockwave or the radiation. Number 3, Poe Dameron, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. When X-Wing fighter pilot Poe Dameron appeared in The Force Awakens, he was an immediate fan favorite. Thanks to actor Oscar Isaac's effortless swagger, impeccable line delivery, and natural chemistry with his co-stars, viewers couldn't wait to see more of the Resistance soldier. Sadly, a Star Destroyer blasts Poe's ship half an hour into the movie, causing the vessel to crash land on the desert world of Jakku. He's seemingly dead, but an hour later, our heroes are rescued by Resistance fighters, led by none other than Poe. Not only were we happy to see Poe was still breathing, but it meant that he could play a part in the inevitable sequels and potential spin-offs. Unfortunately though, Poe is one of many characters in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker that got the short end of the stick. Instead of playing a defining role in the overall plot, he's instead relegated to uninteresting side plots, doling out forced one-liners. Isaac does do the best he can with the material, but it's not enough to make him as memorable as he should be. Because the filmmakers failed to devise an intriguing arc for Poe then, it probably would have been better if he was just killed off in The Force Awakens. Number 2, O.J. Hayward, Nope. After horse rancher Otis Haywood is inexplicably killed by a nickel falling from the sky, his son OJ suspects the coin came from a UFO that's lurking in the area. And upon further investigation, OJ and his sister M deduce that the UFO isn't an alien spaceship, the object itself is the alien. Believing this discovery will make them famous, OJ and M prepare an elaborate plan to lure out the creature, which they call Jean Jacket, after one of their beloved horses that they had to sell when they were kids. When OJ's plan falls apart though, Jean Jacket starts making its way towards M, ready to devour her. To give her a chance to take a picture of the alien, OJ lures the organism towards him, seemingly sacrificing himself in the process. Fortunately, M manages to obtain a photo of Jean Jacket and get away just before it's killed. Just as everything is winding down, M turns around though and actually sees that OJ has made his way back to her, safe and sound. And although it was nice to see this character still alive and kicking, it might have been more impactful if he just wasn't. Number 1. Robbie Ferrier, War of the Worlds. In this H.G. Wells adaptation, Ray is with his estranged children, Robbie and Rachel, when the world is attacked by Martian warships. While Ray tries to take his children to their mother, they are swarmed by a group of alien tripods, and the US Marines launch an assault on the Martians, but it proves to be futile. When young Robbie tries to join in on the attack, Ray warns him that it's pretty much a suicide mission. Refusing to back down though, Ray reluctantly lets go of his son, and moments after Robbie makes his way towards the Marines, the entire area is blown up by extraterrestrials, giving Ray's son no chance of surviving. But after Ray brings Rachel to her mother's house in the final scene, he then sees Robbie has somehow made his way there already. Although we were meant to feel relieved, viewers were just kinda left bewildered. We last saw Robbie walk into certain death, and instead of just looking a little bit banged up, he should be reduced to atoms. Also, considering that Robbie is snarky and kind of an idiot, nobody was really pleased to see that he survived an alien invasion that killed off half the planet.